A Saturday showdown in Mackey Arena went a little bit different than last year's Marquette versus Purdue Boilermakers. This time Purdue wins 79-59. We'll be talking about it all here on Boilers in the Stands post-game show starting right now. All right, we are back here on Boilers in the Stands post-game show. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I am your host, Kraig Bowers Jr. Alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson. Kraig Bowers is at a snowy West Lafayette in Mackey Arena. He'll be talking to Matt Painter and whatever players are available here after the big win over Marquette. And we'll see if maybe he joins here, but it also might be a little bit too quick for him to jump in on the back end. But we'll see. You know how we go. We always kind of roll and flow and talk ball as the Purdue Boilermakers win an impressive one going away. This one was never close to begin with, really, when you stack it all up. Joe, I'll lend you the floor to the instant reaction, but you got to be impressed by what you saw from the big men in this game. Absolutely outstanding. And then there was some really good defensive efforts as well.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me today is this wasn't one of those Purdue games where, right, it's A+ effort and or not A+ effort, A+ performance, and right, they're shooting 65% from three. And just one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, it didn't really matter who they played, they were just winning. It was more of a grinded out, just gradually build the lead. They did have a little bit of a run to end the first half, start the second half, which was big. But right, it wasn't just this huge influx of threes or fluky turnovers or anything like that. It was pounding the ball inside, dominating the glass, and just being the better team. Some of that obviously is due to kind of where Marquette currently is with this team. Not a great team by any means, but still, this was a Purdue game where I think we still have questions of how can they win these games when the 3-point shot isn't falling, when the offense isn't at 100%. And again, Marquette, not the biggest test in the world right now for that, but still being able to get a win like this, doing it in a little bit different fashion. We will obviously talk about Oscar Clough, I'm sure, plenty in this one in TKR, but just the willingness Purdue had to feed the ball down low really stood out. We mentioned in the last post-game show, especially to start that second half and onward against Minnesota, Purdue felt like they were going more into the post, going one-on-one, just trusting their bigs down low, especially when the bigs have smaller guys on them. And that was the same exact thing today where, right, Marquette just did not have a dude to match up with Clough, to match up with TKR. And Purdue was more comfortable really than it's felt like all season, just being willing to dump the ball down low, let their bigs eat, and then work from there. We'll talk about stats, but dominated the glass for the most part. It gets a little lopsided because of, I think, some of the garbage time from Marquette, but for the large majority of the game, dominated that area, and just a good win overall in a game that wasn't an A+ game by any means to me. Muted.
Damn it. Damn it. Another $10 to the drawer. But that is the story of the game, right? Asking you shall receive. I mean, we talked about, hey, they're not throwing it into the post. How are we going to get more efficient touches, more quality touches for Kaufman-Renn, for Oscar Clough, who so much of the time in this offense are running that high pick and roll. And, then you're the short roll, and playing that kind of point center right there at the top of the key, right by the free throw line. And, whether they're going to get into their motion and try to get to the rim or kick out to the three. Well, this time, no more messing around. Let's get into the post. And we understand that this is going to be matchup dependent. You're not going to be able to utilize this frame of philosophy every game. But at the same time, I think something that is extremely underrated, at least in the years that I've watched Purdue basketball, and I think something fans don't always appreciate to the extent that they should, is the comfortability with which to throw it into the bigs. There is an execution that needs to take place. You don't just set a guy up in the post and it Zach Edey's going to make it look easy for you. But in years before that, whether it was Travion Williams or Matt Harms or Caleb Swanigan, whoever you have to have perimeter players that have the confidence to throw it in the right way, with the right precision, with the right quickness and execution. And when you're screening off and you're doing that little back door on the baseline, or Braden Smith's, maneuvering and trying to find that right angle to kind of slip it to Oscar Clough as he turns to the front of the rim to get that dunk. Like, those are things that are a skill. And for me, I've always kind of said, I just feel like that's always been an underappreciated asset that every perimeter guard has to have. And maybe at the high school level, that's something that can kind of be done without really too much war of attrition. At the college level, you have to earn getting it into your bigs. And then conversely, your bigs have to earn a positive possession, advantage down there. They have to show enough confidence to the perimeter players, like, hey, I am dominating my position down here. Feed me the ball. I'm not going to turn it over if you throw it in. Because as Painter said, you got to be careful. If you turn the ball over, then it all of a sudden becomes a turnover on Braden Smith. He's not going to throw you the ball again. So you've got to earn that trust from your perimeter players that, hey, you throw it into me any day of the week, and I'm going to come down with it, and I'm going to make a play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that last part is a big thing too, of like, even when I know me and you, the one game where you were kind of up in press row with me, we were talking through some like Clough stuff, and like at that point in time, Clough was not comfortable in the post, just straight up he wasn't. And I know you remember, I remember you calling that out, and now we're getting to the point where it seems like he is, at least against players like these last two matchups where he very clearly has the size advantage. Maybe against like the Michigans and those types of teams. I mean, Michigan's great anyways, but the bigger teams, maybe there's going to be still some questions. And as you said, it's not a every game formula, but it feels like something they can tap into more consistently than what they have been this season. So it's been really good to see for the last three halves of basketball, Purdue being willing to just go back to their roots a bit.
Well, and what did they shoot from three today, right? At one point, it was like 23%. I think it probably raised at the end of the game, but
yeah, to 30.
It got up to 30, which is still not good, especially by Purdue standards. So, like, you also have to show that you can win different ways. Painter always says, how are you going to win when the shots aren't falling in? Well, the shots weren't falling in today, and they didn't just win. They won going away. Because they recognize, all right, hey, today is Oscar Clough and Trey Kaufman-Renn's day. And even Daniel Jacobson, too. He had a really strong moment in the post at one point. I know he had a couple turnovers in the second half, but there was one play in particular that I'll highlight later that I really enjoyed, where he showed that toughness and physicality to go up with it. But, it's just one of those things where I think these guys are starting to figure things out on some different levels, and it was an impressive performance without question. And I think on the other side of the ball, as we always so constantly focus on offense, defensively, this team is playing the passing lanes so incredibly well. And you can make an argument, as great a perimeter defenders as Jakari Harris and CJ Cox are, like, Braden Smith is playing like their best perimeter defender right now. He's been outstanding. He's been a menace the last few games, I should say. And he really was trying to institute that in the Iowa State game. Then all of a sudden the Iowa State game got away from him. But to start that game, he was doing the same thing. He's all over the passing lanes right now.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. And even against Iowa State, like, they did a good job forcing turnovers. For anybody that watched the preview, I think it was in the preview for this Marquette game with Kraig, I kind of threw out the notion of, like, I think Braden's the most important defender for Purdue. I think you can make arguments maybe he's not the best, but I think he's the most important because, like, when he's active defensively, like he has been these last couple games, I would say, and through spurts this season. We remember the spurt last year in kind of early January where he really turned it on defensively. It felt like when that happens, I think it frees up the rest of the defense a bit, where one, he's going to just kind of get some easy steals, get some easy points that way. And now offenses are having to question just a little bit more whether they're going to get easy looks or not. But then two, like, when Braden's on, that's when it allows the CJ and Jakari type to really be able to guard the best player or the superstar, right? Chase Ross today, even against Iowa State, like, it might have been the Momcilovic like type player. Like when Braden's on, and he can kind of handle at times that lead guard, then it frees up Purdue to be a little bit more flexible, a little bit more adaptable, and plus the turnovers. Like we know he's a really smart off-ball defender. His steal percentage is climbing back up to what it was last season, and it probably will break to what it did last season. Like he's been really good at that, and it just kind of gives this defense a little bit more life.
Yeah, 1,000%. So yeah, I'm sorry, I heard something in the other room, and it's my cats doing something. So they have piqued my interest and drew my attention away to your final statement. But yeah, it's good to see. And Marquette isn't the team that we're used to facing. I mean, they showed it. Purdue's 35-1 in November over the last like 5 years or whatever, and Marquette's the only team to have beaten them, and that was last year, where they won going away. And so it's not the same Marquette team. And they also pulled up the transfer thing, talking about that during the game, where Shaka hasn't brought in a D1 transfer since 2001 or something, which is kind of unheard of in the landscape.
2001
or 2021. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I'm blacking out at what year it is, but yes, 2021. 2001, Joe wasn't even alive.
I was two.
You were two.
I was two.
Okay. You saw the back end of Michael Jordan's career at a young 2 years old. So
I mean, I was not alive for any of his championships.
No, that's a sad thing. All right, well, let's get to it. Where do you want to take it? You got anything for the board? You want to go to the minutes? I know Kraig was kind of interested in the minutes disparity. Early in the game, I nothing really stood out for me, but wherever you want to take this, Joe, you're steering the ship.
We can just briefly mention the minutes chart. Nothing too crazy. I think as Kraig and Greg and I were texting a little bit during the game, Kraig just kind of asked, if the Clough and Jacobson rotations were maybe a bit shorter. And you can see in the second stint for both Clough and Jacobson, both just 3 minutes. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary, but it is on the more of the back end or the lower end of their rotations. Usually, like in an ideal world, that first half, Painter wants to go 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes with Clough and Jacobson, and then just kind of finish with whoever. Second half can be a little bit different, but I don't think anything too crazy to call out in the rotation chart.
And look who surprises us, jumping in hot. Kraig Bowers joins the program. How are you, Kraig?
I'm doing good. I went to the press conference because Shaka usually comes down, whether they win or lose. And Shaka's always a great interview, and was hoping to get a few nuggets off of him. But he just did some press for the Marquette guys, specifically outside the locker room. So decided to go ahead and jump on with you all. Missed you, Greg, on this snowy day. You guys all staying home. I braved the long 10 miles that it took me to get to Mackey and 3 inches of snow today.
Yeah. Definitely dangerous out there. I know you guys are supposed to get a lot of snow, and we all know what the challenge of driving on I-65 in that kind of weather is, and especially with the low temperatures. The juice was not worth the squeeze, but Purdue certainly squeezed Marquette right out of Mackey Arena here today, Kraig, and so we're still kind of in the early segments of this show, so just give you the floor to your instant reactions. We certainly thought, something we've talked about over the last couple games, like, hey, let's see if we can get some more post touches. Seems like Matt Painter and their coaching staff kind of identified that as something they could go after, at least for today.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't remember if it was this last game or the game before, but there was a couple different times where it was like, why are we just going to like a simple, good old straight up post up entry pass? We would do with Zach Edey, because there's a definitive advantage against many of the teams that we match up against. And while the other actions are cool and create a lot of other opportunities, sometimes that good old just throw a nice little entry pass into Oscar Clough or TK with just a nice post up move to the basket is going to be effective. And obviously it was today. I thought it was evident real early on. They weren't doubling Clough they were doubling TK, but at least most of the time they didn't send a double to Clough. And it was like, man, if you're going to leave him one-on-one, Clough has that matchup all day long. And I thought it was really the first time we got to see him multiple times just go at a guy. And I early there, I think it was second or third touchdown low, like the dude guarding him actually just falls down. It was like, you could see that advantage was there, and it was there in that case specifically to the point where not only did he make the basket, but he also just sat Gold down on his butt. But to me, I think beyond just Clough, we're back to the stage where you expect Purdue to have a dominant rebounding advantage, similar to the Edey days. You expect Purdue to finish plus 10 on the glass or around there. And as long as they're doing that in collective offensive rebounds, it's going to be really, really hard to beat this team. I thought that was the one area against Iowa State. There are obviously many reasons that we struggled against Iowa State, but I really expected going into that game that we'd finish +8 to +10, and it ended up being like +1. But they've really asserted their dominance since then, the last two games.
Yeah, absolutely. And, while we're still on the subject of the post touches and Oscar Clough, and we'll certainly get to Trey Kaufman-Renn, but I think both of them kind of bring two different styles to the way they'll back you down. And obviously Trey Kaufman-Renn, we've gotten to know over 4 years, and he's very deliberate with, I'm going to get to my right. I am going to get to the middle of the paint to the right. There are times where it's like he'll have the open layup the other way and he'll still turn back because he wants to go with that right-handed hook right there in the middle of the paint. Whereas Oscar Clough kind of does this a little bit of a dance with you. He'll back you down. He'll crab dribble. Joe, you kind of talked about it. Sometimes he'll get a little too much side to side, but then he'll set you up with a drop step, and he'll get your leverage a certain way. And I do feel like, when you talk about Kraig, they decided to double TKR and not Oscar. That's really going to be a situation where it's going to be difficult if they continue to do these kind of post touches going forward a little more frequently, because you can make an argument it should be the other way around, because in my opinion, Clough has a little more in his bag in terms of different ways he can get to the rim. That being said, Trey Kaufman-Renn, you go one-on-one with him, he'll just physicality you to death and muscle your ass to the rim. So it's like you're kind of damned if it's death by a couple different ways, but they both certainly bring something different to the table.
And with Clough's kind of emergence with this, especially like, and I want to keep reiterating, like he has shown this against smaller guys, which is not a bad thing, obviously, by any means. Like, but what it does is, even if they're going to start playing some teams with like bigger centers still, obviously sometime in the lineup, even like Auburn has like a 6'10" dude that they'll play looking to head to the next game, and then like a 6'7" forward. There are going to be times where teams might try to opt to put the bigger guy on TKR just because he is the bigger threat. But then that means Clough's going to have the advantage when that happens. And now with Clough showing like, okay, I'll just dominate smaller guys, it makes it even that much more difficult for teams to fully put like the better big defender on TKR if they want to. Like, they have at least more of a choice to make. How you decide, I don't know. That's kind of just up to a coaching staff, and I'm glad I don't have to make those types of decisions. But it just adds another layer for trying to defend this team.
Yeah. Did you guys, like, you're still in the takeaway segment, right? Quick takeaways.
Yeah. And I would just say final thing to add on to all this is if you're trying to move it to a different direction, because we definitely
I'm not. I have another one.
Yeah. My other point of this is, while Daniel Jacobson still has development to do, the luxury you have of a guy like that coming in off the bench, who would be somebody that got a lot more significant minutes for any other team, most teams. Now you have that kind of guy coming in, and when you get, like you say, Auburn's got a 6'10" guy, well, the minute he gets in foul trouble, then what do you do? Whereas Purdue can rotate these bigs and keep kind of coming at you. Go ahead, Kraig.
I don't know if Joe, I don't know if you've referenced the defense yet or not, but I thought the job that they did against Marquette's two leading scorers, and James Jr. and Ross, was just really, really good today. They go a combined 3 of 15 on the day for 10 points total. Purdue's kind of principles in terms of what they're deciding to do with driving guards right now is try to force everybody baseline, force them into their bigs. And there was only a couple of times this entire game that James or Ross got downhill in the middle of the lane, which is where Marquette does their damage and then creates their opportunities for everybody else. So I thought an incredible job defensively against those two guys.
Well, I thought one defensive possession, I think it was in the first half, where they were trying to get a score on the baseline. They kept going from one baseline to the other, and it they'd kick it in.
Oh, yeah.
They'd close and double. They'd kick it out. They'd recover. They'd throw it across. They'd recover. And it was like they're doing this dance back and forth. They couldn't get anything because Purdue was just doing a good job on the perimeter, but also those bigs were just doing a great job of kind of floating left to right.
Yeah, right. The defensive principle that Purdue has is to try to just take away the paints with bodies. We know from an individual standpoint, Purdue does not have the best defenders across the board, but you can still make up for it with scheme. And it's not like they have terrible defenders for the most part. And so what that means, what you were describing, Braggs, yeah, basically just living in the paint. And I remember it seemed like it was drive baseline, kick corner, literally 3 times in a row. And Purdue did a good job of rotating. Marquette only took 14 shots at the rim for the entire game. I think a couple of those probably come on offensive rebounds, and a couple of them are probably garbage time too. So we'll stick with the 14, but 14 out of 61 is not a very high percentage of shots taken at the rim, and that is at the core what this Purdue defense wants to do. They'll get burned sometimes when teams start making a lot of jumpers, and you have to figure it out. But for the most part, that's what they want to do. And the other thing that stood out today was they switched a lot. They switched a lot today, 1 through 4. So any action involving any of the guards and generally whoever was playing the 4. Was sorry, we're good now. But the switching 1 through 4 with TKR, and then they don't switch 1 through 5 specifically. It's more of a 1 through 4 and then 4-5 if TKR and the big are involved in the same action. But it was just doing a good job there too of keeping guys in front where, right, sometimes some of these games it's purely just kind of hey, CJ had an elite defensive game and that's why their top scorer couldn't score, or Jakari or whoever. And I think both of them were solid defenders today, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't just an individual effort. It was back to being a team effort, switching more, helping on drives, like you said. And that's kind of how you get this type of results, combined with what Braggs and I said off the top with Braden just being more of a pest in passing lanes.
So we're going to transition here in a minute. We want everyone to stick to this program. So when I say this, do not leave. But there's been Big Ten action all across the board. Penn State gave Michigan a fight to the wire. They fell short. Michigan State to the wire. As soon as I tuned in, I think I jinxed it with about 5 minutes to go ahead and watch the whole game. Turn it on with 5 minutes. They're up 3, and then they blow the game. But they gave them a good fight. Nebraska's at Illinois, and it's 30-16 Nebraska right now. It's obviously still early, but Price Sanford has 23 points in the first half, and there's still 6 minutes to play. He is 5 from 6 from 3, absolutely flame-throwing in Champaign right now. 23 points with 6 minutes still left in the first half. So we'll stay tuned to all that. But do not leave. Hit the like button here for Boilers in the Sand. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, we obviously really appreciate you tuning in as always. But if you head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the like button. Those are the easiest ways you can go about supporting what we do and help growing what we do here as we're doing our thing after a big Boilers win in Mackey Arena here as we look ahead to Auburn next week, but still got some more to break down in this game. So where do we want to take it next, Joe? We want to go to the team stats and take a look at how Purdue as a team kind of beat Marquette up?
Yeah, I think that's where we should go. Bring them up here. a game where Purdue obviously dominates pretty much the majority of the game. They win the rebounding battle 38-29, 20-14 assists. They do turn the ball over 14 times, although 8 of them was the first half, and then I think they had 2 garbage time. Marquette only ends with 12. Purdue and Marquette both don't shoot great from 3, 7 of 23 for Purdue, 8 of 31 for Marquette, but the big difference comes from the 2-point percentage where Marquette was only 40%, 12 of 30 from 2, and Purdue was 23 of 33 from 2, which is basically 70%. And that feels like the big area where Purdue gets 36 points in the paint, Marquette only 22. Yeah, like that in itself feels like the big kind of difference in the game to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Kraig, anything for you stand out? Obviously, points in the paint, 36-22. And and then 20 assists on 30 made baskets for Purdue as well. Always a good number to look at.
Yeah, no, I think the 2 stats that pop out are pretty glaringly bold about why Purdue won this game in terms of the rebounding and points in the paint. And I've already kind of referenced that rebounding advantage and how important it is for this team. So I've really got nothing to add to it. We can probably go into the player breakdowns.
14 turnovers for Purdue. I'm sure that's probably a little too high. I know this is a 20-point game, so you don't really worry about those kind of things as much in a game like this, but I'm sure Painter's going to have a little bit of a point of emphasis to make sure that number stays down, because that's something that can bite you in the butt when you play more quality opponents.
Yeah, definitely. And it's looking through, it's their second worst turnover game on the season, only behind Iowa State. So something to clean up. It felt a lot kind of unforced. So I'm not like overly concerned about it, but it is definitely still something to kind of be like, hey, this does need to start creeping back the other way.
Absolutely.
And look, anytime Purdue's dominating a team, there's at least 2 a game that is just Braden like trying to make a highlight reel pass. So like, it feels like. Yep.
BK Bennett here in the chat. Appreciate you as always. Bennett, $5 super chat saying Clough's stuff was unstoppable. DJ needs to add 25 pounds of muscle to compete. Purdue starts slow in every afternoon game. Why? It was a good win. So he's dropped from the 50 pounds now down to 25. I think that might be more reasonable from our last post-game show. But starting slow, I mean, it was kind of slow for like the first 4 minutes, but it wasn't as slow as the last game, right? Like I didn't really feel like it was as, like, for me, the last game where they took till halftime to wake up against Minnesota, there was certainly a gripe there, but I felt like today they were, by the time they got it to 12-6, the game was over.
Yeah, there wasn't that immediate like 12-2 punch, if that's kind of what you were looking for. And it was a little sloppy. But like, I think I agree with you, Braggs, more of just like, it didn't feel as bad this game as maybe some others, whereas Purdue still, I'm looking through, like they still won the first segment by 4 points. They didn't lose any segment until 5 minutes left in the first half where they lost it by 1. Like they still, for the most part, kind of dominated from the jump. It was more of just it was a slow burn. And I think, especially Mackey, we're used to some of these games just like Purdue coming out and just jumping on teams. And it wasn't necessarily that today.
Yeah, absolutely. As Price Sanford hits another 3. This is he drops a 50 burger. We're gonna have to keep updating this. It's wild to watch here. So
they're fun. They're a team I don't get every team right? Like I thought Oregon would be good, but they're a team I was very excited to watch. Thought they'd be good, and it's very fun to see them be good. Also, like, as now of covering Big Ten for a few years, I've interacted with most fan bases to at least a degree. One of my favorite fan bases probably to interact with, just a side note, like they're just, I don't know. I always just have good interactions with them. But this is a Purdue podcast, so we can get back to breaking down the players here.
Yeah, let's do it. Appreciate you getting us on track. Sorry for my ADD.
All good. So I think we got to start with Oscar Clough, right? 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 of them being offensive, does not miss a single shot from the floor, going 9-9 from 2, 4-4 from the free throw line, adds in an assist, 2 blocks, 2 steals.
Wow.
Did have 2 turnovers. So, I mean, I guess his
in
only
23 minutes of play, right?
Yeah. 23 minutes of play. So
that's That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about him some off the jump. So maybe I'll throw it to you, Kraig. Kind of your thoughts on Clough, because you were busy grinding with post game stuff. So what were your kind of thoughts with Clough?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll add on top of what you said was like you also can't underestimate the value of just how much space he creates for everybody else to rebound. So a lot of TKR's increase in production is because of the energy and effort that he's playing with. A lot of it is the fact that he's not having to expend so much energy on the offensive end like he was last year. But some of it is also a product of that space that Clough carves out and the fact that he's matching up with the biggest body. So not only is he getting a ton of rebounds, but he's also allowing everybody else kind of a better opportunity to get their rebounds too. And the other thing jumped out to me today, Joe, and I don't know, you're the defensive guru here, but man, Marquette, the few times they did kind of challenge right down the middle of the lane, I thought Clough did a really nice job of just walling up today and making those attempts difficult. He's not going to record the block numbers that Jacobson is, but he can still be a big body presence that they bounce off of when they hit, right? Like they're not moving him back. Absorbing contact from Clough's a little bit different than absorbing that from like Jacobson or TK. But I thought he did a really, really nice job of just walling up against that drive today.
Yeah, Clough's just good within his frame. Like he is 7 foot. He's a big body, super strong. He isn't gonna jump out of the gym or be a super right, like you said, above the rim finisher or shot blocker. But I think, as you said, like I thought he did a good job and does a pretty good job in general of walling up, staying straight up, not getting too many cheap fouls called on him. And I think that relates to on his post ups too, where right he knows he's not going to always just bury guys or jump over them, but he knows he has good footwork and good hands, so he can use that to his advantage. And just a really, I think, smart player within his body. And right, we've obviously highlighted what the offense has been like this year for this game, but yeah, that's a good call out on the defense too. Like he's been solid. His block rate has gone up a bit this season, but more than that, he is affecting team shots from two. And when we look back to like last year, right, Purdue was 332nd in the country in defensive 2-point percentage. After this game, they're 92nd, and that feels much more manageable and reasonable for them. They're not going to be a top 10 defense in terms of limiting 2-point percentage, but they are much, much better. And a lot of that can be contributed to him. Jacobson obviously helps too, and TKR getting back to his more natural position.
Yep.
Yeah, and they jumped back up to 19th in KenPom defense as soon as that game ended today. I know you talk about the difference between like 15 and 30 is a pretty small sliver, but nonetheless, they jumped back up into the top 20.
All right. Well, let's keep kicking it around then. Probably need to take it to well, if we want to just stick into the bigs area right now, we could just kind of finish up with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Jacobson and then move to some of the perimeter guys, because I know some fans are certainly going to want to talk about Fletcher Lawyer kind of finding his way again and Omar Meyer, but Trey Kaufman-Renn has 10 points on the day, 3 of 7 shooting, 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He ends up with 9 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass. So he certainly got his work done here today in 26 minutes of action, 1 block, only 2 turnovers. Go ahead and take it where you want to, Joe.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid game. It wasn't an elite game from TKR by any stretch of the imagination. Did seem to kind of have to feel his way to get into the game. Wasn't like a super good start, but I think the big thing that stood out to me today, and it's been evidence in most games, not just this one, but to this one especially, where like his shot he wasn't getting a ton of looks. He only ends up with 10 points, but he can still just impact the game in a lot of areas, or maybe not a lot of areas, but like rebounding, he has been elite at, like just simply has been elite. Like he can still affect the game in other areas. I think the defense has been improving as well. Didn't realize it until they brought it up on the broadcast. He is leading the Big Ten in rebounds per game. Clough's also 5th in Big Ten in rebounds per game right now. So like just his impact in other areas besides scoring, like he was the 3rd leading scorer today. You can make the arguments, right, that maybe he's like the 3rd or 4th best player on the floor today for Purdue. but still was able to impact in a very good way.
I will say, I think I noticed something in the second half as I'm always trying to fix an All-American level player in TKR. But in the second half, when they fed it into him in the post, no pun intended, Joe, he like took a deep breath. He went, you saw it on the telecast, I'm sure, Joe. And he just like, and then he like faced up and then turned and made his move. And it just like all was really succinct. And I was like, all right, that's what you need to do here going forward. Just like relax for a second, because like sometimes I just feel like he wants a battering ram through people. And then it also seemed like he was like a little chippy with the guy he was going up against. There was a couple times where I felt like they had something going on there, even at the early portions of the game. But I think I've unlocked what Trey needs to do at times, and that's just relax for a second. He gets fired up.
Yeah, and when he can get the time to do it, that's when he's at his best. I think what it seems like is he probably gets caught of like he expects double team, so he's like, okay, I gotta go quick. And I think
fair.
when he caught that one, he's like, okay, I have time. And like you said, like literally took a deep breath and was just like, all right, now I can go to work. And right, if you leave him one-on-one, he's going to get a good look 90% of the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kraig, you shaking things up on media row?
Yeah, a little bit. I sat down on the front row today instead of walking all the way back up. I was being lazy, and they're cleaning some stuff up here. So he was just letting me know that the cord that chains these all up is going to be behind me, so I don't face plant when I get up to try to leave. So
you better watch it. That's Brian Newbert's spot.
No, he goes to the other side.
Goes the other side.
I made sure that I stayed on podcast side of the street, not writing side of the street. So
yeah,
we know our roles. We know our roles, Greg. No, like so I've had a few people ask me like, well, hey, what's wrong with TKR this year? Like, well, hold on a second. Let's dive into that a little bit. I get it from the superficial level. If you're just looking and like, all right, he averaged 20.1 points a game last year. He's averaging 13.9 this year. So like the initial reaction by a lot of people is going to be, why is he having a down year? I think he's better this year. Like from a scoring standpoint, he doesn't get into quite as much of a flow because he's not getting quite as many shot attempts. And he's had a couple of games where he's had 19 this year. He's had a couple of games where he's been closer to 10, like today. But in terms of his overall impact on the court, like if he's going to get 14 to 15 a game, but get me double-digit rebounds, I'll take that every single day over 20 points and the amount of rebounds he was getting last year.
And
go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought I misread. That was a misread on my part. Yeah, so because I do have his stats pulled up. 20 last season, 20 points per game, obviously. 20 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 2.2 turnovers, and shot essentially 60% from two. Also, basically 60% from two this season. So it goes from 20 points a game to 14, but rebounds go from 6.5 to 10.6 right now, a top 10 number in the entire country. Assists go from 2.2 to 2.5, while turnovers drop from 2.2 to 1.8. Some of those numbers maybe are a bit marginal, but yeah, like you said, like he can impact in different ways now. It isn't just purely scoring. We also know that on any given night, he can go for 30 if Purdue needs him, like really needs him to, and the opportunity presents. But there's not that need to force, whereas last year at times it was like, all right, Braden and TKR, please put up a combined 55 points and 12 assists, or else Purdue's not winning this game. Purdue doesn't have to have that this year.
Yeah, and our muscle expert, BK Bennett, here in the chat says TKR is a beast. His effort is unsurpassed. His rebounding is priceless in value to the team. No worries with TKR. And I'm going to start calling him Muscle Man because I know how much he appreciates some quality muscle. I better stop before I say something crazy. All right, let's continue to kick it around. Bennett says he signed off with Muscle Man.
There you go. All right, let's go to Lawyer. We'll talk about Braden next after 15 points. 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal. I think the big thing is goes 4 of 8 from 3. Basically can just knock down some shots again. is there anything to talk about with Lawyer from either of you other than it was just good to see him knock down a few jumpers again?
Yeah, and you thought he was going to start out hot. Like he hits that first one to open the game, and you think, all right. Then he gets a couple more looks, and like that would have been the thing that would have put Purdue on that just jump right out of the gate on top of him, avalanche sort of thing. But he misses his next three, and it's really the second half where he gets going again from outside from that standpoint. But no, like Fletch is shooting the lights out of the ball. He had a move at the top of the key. I think he actually missed the three. But he kind of sidestepped, dribbled behind his back, and or something. I don't know, but he's definitely added a little bit more to, I guess, what he's willing to attempt outside to get himself into a good look from three. And he's just so good in motion, just coming off super hot, getting that thing, putting it up, drilling it a good portion of the time. I don't know what he is on the years,
46%.
46%. Yeah, I do think it's funny and. It doesn't speak to Fletcher's value because, and Painter will talk about this a lot. There's so many things that don't even get recorded as stats in terms of just knowing what the right play is, being in the right place, making the right pass, all those little things. But the last few games I've gone to put his stat line up at halftime, and it's like everybody else, it's however many points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, whatever. And with Fletcher, I always just have to put up his 3-point percentage next to it because a lot of times there's not rebounds or assists or steals to go along with it or anything to add up. But elite shooter continues to play the game the right way and do things that is winning basketball.
Yeah, and Tammy Wallen here in the chat says, good to see him attack the basket sometimes. He did have that really nice and one where he was being fouled around the curl, through the dribble, and then as the play continued on, after about the fourth time he'd been fouled on that play, they finally blew the whistle, and he got the continuation and the and one, as continuation has now found its way to college basketball, which is kind of a new wrinkle here this year, and Fletcher found the benefit on that play in particular.
Yep, I don't got much more to add on him than what you guys said. I feel like you guys covered it, so keeping it moving along here. Braden, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. Did have 4 turnovers and 2 steals in 31 minutes of play. 3-6 from the field, 0-2 from 3. Defense, we talked about the Braden defense kind of off the jump, and I feel like that's the first thing that stands out is just his energy has been infectious, it feels like, defensively, and has brought a new kind of life to what this team can be and what can do defensively. We know what he's going to do scoring. We know what he's going to do passing the ball. I think the only other thing that stood out to me, and I've hit on this some this year already, but like, I do think more than ever, Braden, like an undervalued thing with Braden right now is he understands the moments. Like he knows, right, 85% of the time he just reacts to what's happening in front of him and he just makes the right play. But he has that part to him where he just knows, okay, I need to go make something happen. And for this game, it was with 3 minutes left in the first half, I think Marquette had cut it to 9. Purdue comes out of the media timeout and he immediately just drills a pull up too. And then like 10 seconds later gets a steal, gets a drop off to Jakari. And within 15 seconds, it's a 4-0 run. And I think Purdue ends that half on a 9-3 run. And it starts with Braden, to me, knowing what the team needs in every single moment from him. And in that moment, with the offense looking a bit unsettled, because I don't think they had scored for a couple minutes stretch, it was him just going to get a bucket. And that's what he did. And just kind of jump started. It was the point, right, where it was like, all right, is this going to be like the Minnesota game where Purdue lets this thing creep back to a few points? And Braden just simply didn't let that happen.
Yeah, and I feel really good about the fact too that Braden, he's named preseason national player of the year. I don't know that I want to say a lot of guys, but there are some guys that if they were in the running for named one of the top 3 for preseason national player of the year or whatever, that we're going to worry about their points. And it's very, very clear that Braden is not concerned about that. He's just going to go out, play winning basketball, make the right pass. He's always cared more about providing assists, about getting people in the right position and allowing them to score anyway. But I do think it speaks some volume, and to the fact that if your preseason national player of the year is not worried about how many points he's getting, who else on this team's going to, right? Like that's infectious. Then everybody else is unselfish and just worried about winning basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also just say here before I finish my Braden thought that your computer and your video screen and audio, Kraig, is impeccable. So congrats to you. I know you upgraded a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah, that's what another 24 and RAM will do for you.
Yeah, you are just like precise over there. So credit to you. I will say, I know Braden wanted it on that breakaway steal. If he was able to collect the ball, I think he was going to try to dunk it on that play. I know he's hunting his first ever dunk. He couldn't corral it in, so he ended up just dishing it off to the middle for the assist. But I know he's still hunting for that dunk. I will say that I do feel like there are times, and Braden Smith, he can do whatever he wants with the basketball. He's the leader of this team, and without him, this team, you don't even want to think about where this team would be if he wasn't on it. So, but that being said, the last few games, I do feel like there is a looseness to the basketball. I need to see a little bit tightened up. Maybe Painter jinxed it on our program before the season, saying he had never turned the ball over going behind his back. Well, now he's turned it over a couple times going to it. Today, he did one to Kaufman-Renn at the top of the key that kind of felt a bit unnecessary. And again, I'm picking nits when you talk about one of the greatest, if not the greatest passer in college basketball history. But I do just feel like there's times where he's trying to do the maestro routine and he kind of comes down and he's trying to feel it. And, you're not going to bat 1,000 when you have the ball in your hands as much as he does. But I just feel like the last couple games, it's been a little more loose than I'd like to see. But obviously not anything that has caused them to be in trouble of losing a game. But again, the margins get thinner when you play tougher teams, and 14 turnovers today, 4 from Braden. Got to make sure those are tightened up.
Yeah, I do think that's fair, and we all love and know what Braden's capable of, and there's a time and a place, and this was probably a time and place for it. But at the same time, it's not something that you can't let it slip into the moments where it can't happen. The other thing I will say, because as I've been watching, I've been watching some other college basketball today, surprisingly. Like I feel like I take for granted how good Braden and TKR are in their 2-man game. Because like I was watching the Penn State Michigan State game, and Penn State played solid, honestly, but there was just a lot of times where it's like they come out the screen and I see the defender and I'm like, oh, the defender's out of position, just like hit the short roll, like, or hit the lot or whatever, and it's just like the guards don't, and I'm like, oh, it's probably more of just like I'm spoiled by having watched Braden so much. Like I just expect every guard to be able to make those passes, and it's like, oh well, I guess every guard's not Braden. So I do want to add that in there because I did think of that today.
I do feel like the last couple games too, he has had a little trouble getting to the rim. Like I feel like he hasn't been able to find the angles to actually go all the way and get that. He does such a good job of kind of needling through, kind of using the pick and roll, and then he just gets this easy layup. And I feel like he really hasn't had many of those opportunities, so much so that the defenders are getting leverage on him where he's doing that pivot back fadeaway shot that he can make. It's an impressive shot when it goes down, but it's obviously a higher degree of difficulty. So I think that's the other thing. I can see him navigating, trying to find those angles to get the layups, but I really feel like he hasn't had very many layups here in the last couple games.
Yeah, I'd have to go back at the numbers. I don't know off the top of my head, but I don't inherently disagree with you.
Yeah. Yep. And that may be somewhat due to Clough being down there, just eating up a little bit more space. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm looking through the numbers, and yeah, he is definitely getting to the rim a lot less right now.
So you're saying, Kraig, to get his big ass out of the way. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm fine with Clough just eating up double digit rebounds every single game if that means Braden shoots a 5-footer instead of a layup. So
All right. Who else we got? We got. I know some people want to talk about Omer Meyer. Who else we got?
We can jump to him. We could do our annual, let's just lump Jakari and CJ together unless there's something specific. CJ had a couple very nice passes, which was good to see. The one kind of wrap around to Jacobson was awesome. Kraig, I guess I'll throw it to you, or I'll read the stats first, I guess. CJ, 5 points, 2 assists, no turnovers, 1 of 3 from the 3, 2 of 5 overall. Jakari, 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, no turnovers, 2 of 4 from, or 2 of 2 from 2, 0 of 2 from 3. Anything from either of the combo guards that Purdue has that it's seemingly we just lump together every game.
Well, I mean, first of all, I thought they were both just really, really good defensively today. Obviously, they get the matchup on Ross, who does get a little bit loose in the second half. I think with like 16 minutes to go in the second half, Ross and missing the other guy's name, but anyway, Ross only had 2 points, and James Jr. had 0 points at that point. So Ross got a little bit loose later in the game when it was already kind of out of question. But I thought they both were really good defensively. CJ hits the corner 3, but like you said, we've seen it now in a few games. Like, he doesn't get the opportunity to do it at high volume, but it just feels like his natural feel for passing, and when he does have a little like pick and roll action or anything like that, just seems a lot better and more comfortable this year than the last year. And then I really thought Jakari, like, we focus a lot on, is Jakari hitting his threes or not, which if he's going to be out there, kind of in CJ's spot for part of the game, he's got to be able to knock down that corner 3. So certainly it's something to bring up. But I think what Jakari provides that maybe some of the other guards don't is his ability to drive and take some contact and still finish at the rim. And over the last 3 games, or 2 or 3 games, I'd have to go back and look, but I just feel like he's done that couple of times each game and seems to be much more comfortable in doing so. And I'd like to see him attack a little bit more when he's got that line, when he can see that path to get to the basket. But I'll save my one moment of really high CJ praise for play of the game.
Okay.
I wonder what that'll be. For me, Jakari is, I think playing more confidently, and you hit on it, Kraig. Like, the 3-point shot just might not be there yet. I still buy it long term, but that just might be me holding out hope more than being a fair analyst. But he does have more driving capability. Like, CJ can just hit a shot in a phone booth, but Jakari is the one where he's more comfortable right now getting to the rim. And I just think he's playing a bit more confident, and that's really stood out, where he gets a couple drives, makes a couple good passes. Yes, the 3 isn't falling, and that's going to be a big reason why he doesn't get more minutes, right? And CJ is going to be opted for more, for sure, because CJ's lethal from 3. But just it feels like he's playing more confidently in his role, and as the 7th, 8th man on this roster, like, it's kind of what you need from him. CJ, similar things to you. Thought the defense was pretty good. Got burned. It was like he got burned a couple times off ball, which I only call out because it's just like you don't see that happen too much. So it was just kind of like jarring to see that happen to CJ. But the really good pass to Jacobson where he kind of wraps it around with his left hand, that was really nice. I thought the defense overall was good. Good to see him knock down the 3. Just like CJ's just solid at this point, where we know he can have the Memphis game where he goes for 18 on any given night, but he's just, the rest of his nights have just been like solid overall, where maybe last year I think there was maybe a bit more up and down with his play naturally as a freshman, and this year you can just kind of bank on him being pretty good night to night. Has scored at least 5 points in every game since the Memphis game. Has been solid overall. Jakari, you mentioned that the more driving lately, and I meant to start off with this. He's 9 of his last 10 from 2, so there's at least that too. All right, I kind of stopped in a bad moment. That was on me. I did not tee up either of you, so one's on me.
No, it's fine. I was just making sure Kraig wasn't jumping in. Final thing. Well, let's just finish off with Omer Meyer, who obviously fans kind of, it's an evolving process of trying to figure out where his game is and how he's developing. Ends with 7 points on 2 of 5 shooting. Gets a 3 to go down, gets to the line a few times, knocks down a couple free throws. Finds himself 16 minutes of action here today. What are you seeing? What did you see from him today? And any new revelations from the ongoing development of one Omer Meyer?
Yeah, to me, so the shot wasn't falling, obviously, and he hits a couple lates, and that was good to see. This game, in more so than a lot of the other games, felt like he was playing within the system of he knew when it was his time to shoot. He knew right, but his three looks that he missed early on, they were good looks. It wasn't like he was forcing. Maybe the 1-3 is a little deep, but it was still in rhythm, catch and shoot. I know I would assume Painter wants him firing on those. But then in like the second half where at times there was the ball gets swung to him, and at times he kind of just will hunt his shot. He pump fakes a little and then draws it out and dumps it down into the post because that's what Purdue was doing. So that would be the positive takeaway. Obviously, at some point the shots have to fall, like they just simply do, and especially for his kind of archetype, like the jumper just has to get going in some capacity. But it at least was positive to see what felt like him playing within the system more today than really his recent games of memory.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm 100%. I'd say 1,000% with you. That felt like he was playing, more of the role that he's supposed to be playing when he's a backup and not just coming in and trying to rack up points necessarily. And I did not realize in real time here that the other shot didn't get recorded as a 3. Was he right inside the line or something?
I think he was like right on it. Yeah.
Okay. Was that the one he hit with a hand in his face?
Yeah, the like little sidestep thing in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. It was just amusing to me that that's the one he hits, right? Like he has three just wide open threes and misses them. But like I'm not going to keep going over this. We talked about this, early on in the fall, Joe, when we went through the guard room. I never saw Meyer as like just an elite 3-point shooter coming in. He's a shot maker. But he's not, a CJ level, Fletcher level 3-point shooter. It's going to come and go from night to night. It is what it is. As long as he's facilitating, taking care of the ball, and not turning it over, I'm happy. The one thing I will say, like Marquette's defense is not near what it has been the last 2 years, but they still want to pressure the ball. They'll still do kind of quasi full court press for a second and then drop off and try to harass the ball handler. And in previous years, like, those 4 minutes Braden sits down, you get a little squirrely in your seat, worried about whoever's bringing the ball up. And it's just not an issue with Meyer back there, really. So it's definitely comforting to know that you have somebody that's going to be just fine handling those duties.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's round third here and head home here on the Boilers in the Stands postgame show. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And let's move over to our plays of the game. And I'll start, which means that means I'll have to go last for player of the game by rule. So my play of the game personally, I don't know what it is. Maybe I do this thing where I like really start to hyper focus on one player that I really like or don't, whatever. And so for me, it was Daniel Jacobson once again. My play of the game, it might sound silly, but I just liked at one moment where he's in the middle of the paint. He's got it high. He's looking for the pass, and all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute. I've got space and opportunity. Puts his elbow into a guy right in his chest and boop with the nice little hook shot, and it looked crisp. What I liked about it was how he added physicality into the finesse of the shot itself. And like, if he's going to end up being a big-time player here in 4 years, and there should be zero doubts that by the time he's a senior on this team, for what we've seen from the other bigs at this program, that he is going to be a high-level player. But he just brings so much to the table. And so for me in that moment, that was something there was like, that looked like a senior type of move. That didn't look like a freshman in that. Now, he had 2 turnovers or 3 turnovers in the second half where he did look like he's stumbling over himself and has those freshman moments. But for me, I like that isolated moment. Like that showed you how dominant Daniel Jacobson can be once he gets some strength, maybe add some muscle for Bennett, and then, gets a little more, confidence and experience. And I just think those little glimpses, I think, show his full potential for the 7'4" big man.
I like thinking that was his. I mean, it was probably sort of his thought process, just obviously a bit quicker of just like standing there and be like, wait a second, like I could just go up with this. But I remember what play you're talking about. That was a good one. Kraig, I'll let you go next with yours.
All right. And before I do that, I meant to mention this when we were talking about Smith. And I don't know if you guys mentioned it earlier or not, but second player in NCAA history with 1,500 points, 850 assists, and 550 rebounds. DJ Cooper is the only other player to do that in NCAA history. Also, he's up to 849, or no, I'm sorry. Now he's 859 assists. So he's 31 away from breaking Cassius Winston's record at a 9.1 average that he's on pace to do right now. That should be 4 games from now, which is University of Washington at home, I believe, on January 7th. However, he's close enough. If the next 3 games are big, he might break that at Wisconsin on January 3rd, which I will be in attendance for. But it would be nice to see him break it at home, and I'm sure they do something. All right, my play of the game.
The only, just to add on to that, the stat line that he put up against Minnesota, I saw them share on Peacock that he's one of only 3 players at the college level or the NBA level to have 15 points, 12, like whatever all the stats were with the blocks, steals, 3-point made. He was the total package for the Minnesota game.
Kraig, I'm sorry, we're going to delay your play for a sec because I was going to bring that up too. Braggs, could you tell me who was on that graphic? And
Luka Doncic and LeBron James.
Okay, so no Michael Jordan.
No, he didn't need to do all that. You know what? There goes Joe. Say goodbye to Joe for the day. The other one that I have to give a shout out to is Fletcher Loyer passes Sasha Stefanovic and now becomes the 7th all-time and made 3-pointers, knocking Sasha to 8th. As long as Sasha stays in the top 10, I won't root against anyone to get ahead of Sasha. Didn't really appreciate Sasha getting knocked down there. But at the same time, I also think the fact that it took Loyer all the way till this point in his senior year to pass Sasha shows how well, because like that's actually kind of the Fletcher's been in the starting lineup since as a freshman, and he's just now passing Sasha for threes made here in his senior year as the resident, Sasha guy here on the program. So congrats to Fletcher. No one else is allowed to pass Sasha.
All right, my play of the game. So I think Joe already knows which one it is, but I think Purdue was in a horns look up high. CJ comes around, gets denied the ball at first, comes back, gets the ball, and then somebody sets a screen for him. They high hedge out on him. He drags it out, very similar to what we see Braden do, and then he has that beautiful wraparound pass to Jacobson to score down low. Just jumped out to me as like CJ learning a new wrinkle to his game, Braden-esque in the way it was delivered, and a great finish at the end of it.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a highlight play in this game, and good to see CJ kind of have those capabilities because even next year, like he will presumably have at least some of the point guard responsibilities. We'll go to the board for my play of the game, and it's actually the very first play of, well, the first, I guess technically the second play because Loyer had the ball get knocked out, but it was just a simple action, and it was a play of the game to me because, right, Loyer has been in a slump. And we've seen Purdue just kind of target who they want to get going early. Sometimes it's been CJ. Obviously, it's a heavy dose of like Braden or TKR, but it was just a simple action. So after it was a sideline out of bounds, they get the ball, and Braden gets it here. So they're set up like this. And oftentimes, right, you'd see like maybe like a pick and roll here and another one or something of that nature. This is just a simple screen to screener action. And so basically, this TKR here, Loyer just kind of sets this wedge screen on him, which Purdue does 1,000 times to get TKR post up in this area. So you know that the defender is going to go with him. So right, if say Loyer's defender is like right here, he might hedge out a little bit this way, and then as that happens, then Loyer, he's going to get the screen. So screen the screener. Now he's coming off a pin down from Clough, and it's just a simple action utilizing kind of the advantage that obviously TKR poses as a post-up threat, knowing that, hey, Loyer's defender is probably going to take a step this way. Now, as Loyer goes this way, this defender has to really, really chase, and then he's getting hit with the screen. Simple pass, Loyer knocked it down. One, it was good to see him make the shot. Two, it was just good to see him get going early. Simple action. And right, we know this. Purdue is very good at just taking what the defense gives, manipulating it, and burning them with whatever they want to do. So that was just right off the jump, a play that really stood out to me.
All right. As the board made an appearance here on the Boilers in the Stands post-game show. All right, player of the game. Wrap it back around, Joe. You get first dibs.
Oh, I get first. Let's go. Then I will take Oscar Clough. I think that one's a pretty clear one. 22 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Does not miss a shot from the floor in only 23 minutes. He is currently 3rd in the country in offensive rebounding percentage per KenPom. He is also 2nd in the country in offensive rating, individual offensive rating per KenPom. Is shooting 75% from 2. He was a monster today. Like, Marquette had literally no answer for him.
All right. That was the easy one. Kraig, option number 2.
I'm gonna go with TK here because 8 rebounds in the first half there was still like 2.5 minutes to go. I thought, as we talked about in the preview show, that was something that Purdue needed to absolutely dominate in this game and should have by every measure. And I thought he just really, really set the tone on the glass early on of like, we are cleaning up everything. And you're not getting second chances. We're going to get second chances, all of that. So his energy and effort on that end of the court, I'm going to give it to him, especially in the first half. He only got 1 in the second half, so I don't know what was up with him in the second half, but I'm kidding. He was incredible. So.
All right. Yep. And then I'm going to go to Fletcher Lawyer. Obviously ends up with 15 points on the day. Made it look kind of easy for the most part. Like it wasn't like some standout 15-point game. More of a run-of-the-mill kind of 15-point game for Fletcher Lawyer, which I think kind of shows you that he might be trending towards having, go on another heater run here. Big Ten play not too far away. So hopefully, this kind of game can help him kind of get back into the groove that we all know him for and create separation for other guys on the court. So Fletcher, I think, is the obvious choice for third of the game. And I know we had some suggestions here. Lynn Ream, who took off a little bit earlier, said, okay, guys, got to go. The house isn't going to clean itself. Boiler up. Game ball. Is there any question? It's the Clough master. And so there it is for Lynn. And and so we did have some questions. BK Bennett, who's been just awesome here. We appreciate him hanging out with us. Said Braggs is right about the turnovers. I think we were talking about Braden. And then he's asking you, Joe, do you like how Purdue was prepared for the zone? And props to Kraig for braving the snow.
Yeah, I mean, I think Purdue in just their roster makeup is built to beat zones, and even on an off 3-point shooting nights, that still holds true. Now, when the 3-point shooting's falling, really, they can literally just pick apart zones. But yeah, they do a good job where they can flash one of their 4 guys to kind of the elbow area if they want. They also do a good job of running a lot of their normal offense where it might just still be high pick and roll and moving the defense. They had the one play where it was just like a weave action, moving the defense, and then Jakari just dumps it down to Clough, who was sealing one of the low man. So just a good job overall of still staying within their system, but obviously you have to tweak it a touch when it is going up against a zone.
Okay, and Blake Widmer's adding in his game ball goes to CJ Cox for his Elite D on Ross. Kraig mentioned that earlier. Definitely a worthy candidate as well. Blake Widmer also adding back to 50% from 3 again for Fletcher Lawyer. And then a couple more starred comments here. Double D Sports says, just finished our post-game show. Y'all rock. Boiler up. Appreciate you, Double D. As always, beautiful day for Purdue basketball, even with all the snow and ice and cold that is just attacking the Midwest right now. BK Bennett finishes up with, play of the game for me was when Marquette went to zone and Purdue answered with a beautifully drawn up play for a bucket. I think he was talking about right at the start of the game for Purdue there. So that wraps things up. Tammy Wallen's bummed that we have to wait a week for next week's game at Auburn or against Auburn for the Indy Classic in Indianapolis. Kraig and Joe should be on hand for that. I'll be stressing about Bears Packers. And Kraig, I know you had one more thing to add here before we took off.
Yeah, before we sign off, we've got to give love to Purdue volleyball, who plays at 7:30 tonight for a chance to go to the Final Four. Shondell lost either 4 or 5, I forget the exact count, players from last year's team, but 2 absolute stars, one who becomes SEC Player of the Year for Kentucky and is still playing as well in the tournament. Absolutely amazing job by Shondell and that entire coaching staff for what they've done with that team, and nobody would have guessed they had a chance to play for a Final Four. And the only reason I might not be in the Indy Classic, Greg, is because if they make the Final Four, I'm driving to Kansas City next week.
There you go. Maybe they'll let you use that. Maybe you'll be able to sit on press row. We'll see. I don't know. You never know. We've covered a little volleyball here. Maybe they'll let you. You never know. But yes, Heather Garrison says Purdue volleyball is so much fun to watch.
Yep.
So yeah, shout out to the Purdue volleyball team and go get it. Go get another Final Four here. So always good to have some good Final Four love in West Lafayette. So all right, well that wraps things up. Let's get to more college basketball viewing. It's on full display today. No college football, no NFL football. It's all college basketball here today as Illinois and Nebraska are fighting it out with 13 minutes to go. You got Indiana and Kentucky later on. So still plenty of Big Ten action and plenty more to go as Kraig's already taken off because he knows what I do, and that's a 10-minute Midwestern goodbye. So thank you to everyone that tuned in. Hit the like button on your way out. To anyone that's in YouTube that hasn't hit the like button, hit the like button. We appreciate you very much. And thank you to Kraig, as always, for his coverage at Mackey. And thank you to Joe as well for your expert analysis. We appreciate every single one of you. And we will catch you here later in the week. Purdue doesn't play till Saturday. See what we can do from a content point of view, but you'll definitely get your preview show as you always do. Either way, pray for my Bears and my well-being and my mental health. And outside of that, make sure you enjoy your week and always boiler up.